Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe and support me. Dr. Emily Sinclair stared at the holographic projection spinning above her desk. A map of the galaxy, littered with countless infected planets, painted a grim reality. The dots of light marking the spread of the void virus glowed ominously, representing billions of lives hanging in the balance. She swallowed hard. Her hands trembled as they hovered over the controls, but her mind was sharp, focused. This wasn't the time for fear, it was the time for action. A chime echoed through her small office, snapping her out of her daze. Dr. Sinclair, a voice crackled through the comms, "The Federation Council is waiting for you." With a steadying breath, she straightened her coat, grabbed her datapad, and stepped out into the brightly lit corridors of the United Human Federation's Medical Research Center. The air was thick with tension as she made her way toward the council chamber, knowing that every second she wasted meant more lives lost to the void. Emily had dedicated her life to understanding viruses, their structures, and mutations. She had fought some of the most vicious biological threats humanity had ever faced, but nothing compared to this. The void wasn't like anything she'd ever seen. It spread faster than any virus had a right to, and once it took hold, it ravaged its victims from the inside out. Within days, immune systems collapsed, organs failed, and the infected died in unimaginable agony. Entire cities were reduced to ghost towns within weeks. When the door to the council chamber slid open, Emily was greeted by a holographic gathering of humanity's most powerful leaders. Counselors, military officials, and planetary representatives sat in suspended chairs, their faces serious. In the center, Grand Chancellor Lara Dane, a woman known for her unwavering decisiveness, stood waiting. "Dr. Sinclair," Chancellor Dane began, "the situation has worsened. The void is now present on 15 planets. And there is no sign of containment." "You've been briefed on Helios Prime?" Emily nodded. "Yes, Chancellor, Helios Prime was the first known case. If I can get to the source there, I believe we can identify how the virus spreads, maybe even find a way to stop it." Dane's expression hardened. "The Federation is divided. Some factions are pushing for full planetary quarantine, even considering planetary annihilation. If we can't stop the virus, they want to make sure it doesn't spread further. We're running out of time." Emily's stomach turned. "Annihilation? You can't be serious. Millions of people are still alive on those planets." "We can't. We won't, not yet," Dane interrupted. "But we need results. Fast. You'll be leading a team to Helios Prime immediately. A military escort will ensure your safety." "We need a solution, Dr. Sinclair. The fate of humanity depends on it." The weight of those words settled heavily on Emily's shoulders as she left the council chamber. There was no room for failure. If she didn't find a cure, humanity itself might face extinction. The Starlight Voyager hummed to life as it left the dock. Its sleek, silver body glided through the vacuum of space like a blade through water, and from the observation deck, Emily watched as the stars stretched into streaks of light. This mission was unlike any she had undertaken before. Viruses were predictable, mutable, but the void defied all natural logic. Captain Marcus Drex approached, his heavy boots clanking against the deck, a grizzled Federation soldier with a face hardened by too many battles. He was not the type to mince words. "We'll reach Helios Prime in 2 days, Drex said, arms crossed. "I don't have much faith in this mission, Doctor. We should be glassing the planet, not saving it." "Good thing you're not the one making decisions, then," Emily shot back. She didn't have time for pessimism. Drex smirked. "Let's hope you're right." The rest of the crew was a small but specialized team. Lieutenant Jax Rayburn, a hot-headed pilot with a reputation for taking risks, sat at the helm. Across from him, sat Dr. Ilar Vogel, a geneticist known for her unconventional methods. Emily had worked with Ilara before, and while their personalities often clashed, there was no denying her brilliance. As the team settled into the rhythm of the voyage, Emily's mind turned to the task ahead. Her datapad buzzed with endless reports, autopsies, infection rates, transmission patterns. None of it made sense. Viruses were supposed to mutate, adapt to environments slowly, but the void was different. It spread uniformly, almost as if it was programmed. Helios Prime, she muttered to herself. It all started there. The planet had once been a thriving hub of trade and innovation, but now it was the epicenter of a plague. Her only hope was to find something, anything that could explain the virus's origin. Helios Prime loomed before them, an eerie planet bathed in the sickly green glow of its dying atmosphere. The crew silently observed the devastated cities from orbit. Vast urban sprawls turned desolate ruins. The sight of abandoned buildings and empty streets chilled them all to the core. "This is what awaits every other planet if we don't stop this," Emily whispered. The descent onto Helios Prime was tense. The ship's scanners detected life signs of faint but present. Infected survivors, Alara guessed. They might still have useful genetic material. Useful or dangerous, Drex grunted. As the Starlight Voyager landed near a once bustling city center, Emily felt a wave of unease. The planet's silence was deafening. The team moved quickly, equipped with environmental suits and weaponry. Drex took point, leading them into the heart of the dead city. They searched through abandoned medical labs, crumbling research facilities, and makeshift quarantine zones. Bodies were strewn about, each victim showing the telltale signs of the void: skin blackened, eyes hollow, their very essence drained. Emily took samples, fighting the rising bile in her throat. This was more than just a virus, this was something far worse. In one of the labs, Emily found what she had feared: research logs dating back months before the outbreak. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered, scrolling through the data. There were no reports of a virus like this until suddenly, boom, an epidemic. Viruses don't just appear out of nowhere. "What are you saying?" Drex asked, eyeing the surroundings. "I'm saying someone engineered this," Emily replied, her voice tight with disbelief. "This virus, it's synthetic." The revelation hung in the air like a noxious cloud. Emily's heart raced as she pieced together the implications. An alien bioweapon? If so, who created it? And why? The answers lay deeper within the planet, and time was running out. The team pressed on, following a trail that led them to the outskirts of the city. Emily's scanner beeped, detecting strange readings coming from beneath an ancient ruin. "Looks like we've found our source," she said, her voice strained with both excitement and fear. The ruins were unlike anything Emily had ever seen, massive stone structures, etched with symbols she couldn't decipher. The air buzzed with an almost electrical energy, as if the place itself was alive. In the heart of the ruin, they found a chamber filled with alien technology. And there, in a containment pod, was a sample of what Emily feared most: the void virus in its purest form. As she studied the pod, her datapad lit up with readings she could barely comprehend. The virus was far more advanced than anything she had imagined. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a sentient pathogen, designed to adapt and evolve based on its host species. No wonder it had spread so quickly across human worlds. "This is it," she whispered. "The key to stopping it." Alara, who had been unusually quiet, suddenly stepped forward. "And now the Federation has the power to do whatever it wants with it." Emily froze. "What are you talking about?" "The Federation isn't going to use this to stop the virus," Alara said, her voice low and filled with menace. "They're going to weaponize it." Emily's pulse quickened. "Weaponize it? That's not what we're here for." Alara's face hardened, her hand brushing the containment pod as if she were cradling something precious. "You think the Federation is only interested in a cure? They've been searching for a biological advantage for decades. With this virus, they can control entire planets, entire star systems. Imagine what this could do in the hands of military leaders." Emily stepped back, her mind racing. She had known Alara was unconventional, but this was treason. She glanced at Captain Drex, who had been silently listening, his brow furrowed in suspicion. "We need to destroy this," Emily said firmly. "If we don't, millions more will die." Drex nodded slightly, his hands tightening around his weapon. "I'm with the doctor. This thing is dangerous." Alara let out a short, humorless laugh. "You're both not A tilde Macron V. Do you really think the Federation will let you destroy it? They're the ones who ordered this mission. After all, they knew exactly what was on Helios Prime." She pointed toward the containment pod. "This isn't just a virus, Emilia, it's leverage." Before Emily could respond, the air around them crackled. A sharp whine pierced the silence as a group of heavily armed soldiers materialized around them. Weapons drawn, they wore the insignia of the Federation but had no identification markings of Black Ops. "You're not taking this," Emily spat, stepping in front of the pod. The lead soldier, a tall man with a cold expression, raised his weapon. "This is classified Federation property." "Stand down, Doctor." Emily's mind whirled. The Federation had sent them here not to cure humanity, but to secure this virus for their own purposes. All those lives, all the people dying across the galaxy, and they were playing politics. Alar smiled faintly. "You see now, don't you? It's bigger than us, bigger than all of us." Drax, moving faster than Emily had expected, swung his rifle toward the soldiers. "No one's walking out of here with that virus." A tense standoff hung in the air. Emily could feel her heart hammering against her chest. She hadn't signed up for this. She was a scientist, not a soldier, but now she was caught in a battle she had never imagined. Her thoughts raced back to all the people she had lost to her spouse, the patients she couldn't save. She wasn't going to let their deaths be in vain. In a flash, Drax fired. The room exploded into chaos. Energy blasts ricocheted off the ancient walls of the ruin as the Black Ops team returned fire. Emily ducked behind a stone pillar, her breath shallow, trying to make sense of the situation. She wasn't cut out for this. How had it come to this? Through the gunfire, she spotted Alara moving toward the containment pod. Her heart skipped. "No!" Emily shouted, darting from her cover. Alara turned just in time to see Emily leap at her. The two collided, crashing to the ground in a tangle of limbs. Emily struggled against her former colleague, her hands scrambling for the control panel on Alara's wrist. If Alara activated the pod, it would all be over. She couldn't let that happen. "I won't let you," Emily growled, her fingers curling around Alara's wrist. Alara sneered, but her eyes flickered with desperation. "You're too late." With a sudden burst of strength, Alara shoved Emily off her. Emily hit the ground hard, the wind knocked out of her. She gasped, her vision blurring, but she saw Ida the pod's hatch opening. The sample of the void was exposed. Drax fired another shot, downing one of the soldiers before rushing to Emily's side. "We've got to get out of here," he growled, pulling her to her feet. Emily's mind spun. She glanced back at the exposed virus, its dark, swirling mass visible through the containment field. If it was released, there would be no stopping it. But if she could secure the sample, maybe just maybe she could still save humanity. "Cover me," she shouted at Drax, running toward the pod. Her fingers flew across the control panel, sealing the virus back inside. She felt a surge of relief as the containment field re-engaged. But it wasn't over yet. The Black Ops soldiers were regrouping, and Alara wasn't finished. A blast from Drax's rifle took down another soldier, but there were too many. They were being overrun. Alara stood behind the soldiers now, watching with a cold, calculating expression. "You can't stop this, Emily," Alara called out. "Even if you leave here with that sample, the Federation will take it from you. They'll do what's necessary for the survival of the human race." Emily shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. "This isn't survival, this is genocide." A sudden tremor shook the ground beneath them. The ancient ruin groaned, stone walls cracking under the pressure. Emily's heart pounded as the structure began to collapse. Dust and debris filled the air as massive chunks of stone crashed around them. "Go, now!" Drax shouted, grabbing Emily's arm and pulling her toward the exit. Together, they sprinted through the crumbling ruins, dodging falling debris and energy blasts from the pursuing soldiers. The ground quaked violently, and Emily knew they had only seconds before the entire structure came down. They burst out into the open air, the harsh light of Helios Prime's sun blinding them for a moment. Behind them, the ruin collapsed in on itself, burying the soldiers and the virus under tons of rubble. Emily gasped for breath, her lungs burning. Drex was beside her, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead, but he was alive. They were alive. For now, the Starlight Voyager hovered above them, its engines roaring as Jax prepared for a rapid extraction. Emily glanced back at the collapsed ruin. The virus was buried, but it wasn't destroyed. The Federation would dig it up, no doubt. This wasn't over. As they boarded the ship, Emily's mind raced. She had the data, the samples she needed to create a vaccine. But how could she ensure it wouldn't fall into the wrong hands? The Federation was already compromised. If they got hold of her research, they could weaponize it. But if she didn't act, billions would die. Drex sat heavily in the pilot's seat, wiping the blood from his brow. What now, Doctor? Emily stared out the viewport as Helios Prime shrank into the distance. Her decision weighed heavily on her. She had come here to save humanity, but she couldn't let the Federation turn this into a tool for control and conquest. There had to be a way to release the vaccine to the public, to make it accessible to everyone without letting the Federation manipulate it for their own gain. But first, she needed to create it, and time was running out. In the weeks that followed, Emily worked tirelessly in the Starlight Voyager's lab, using the alien samples to develop a vaccine. Every day, she felt the pressure of the Federation breathing down her neck, knowing they would come for her once she succeeded. Drex kept the ship on the move, dodging Federation patrols and bounty hunters sent to retrieve the virus sample. It wasn't long before Emily cracked the code. The vaccine was ready, but she couldn't trust the Federation to distribute it. She had to get it to the people, bypassing the political machinery that had turned this crisis into a power play. With Drex's help, she made contact with a rogue group of scientists and medical professionals who operated outside the Federation's control. They had the means to distribute the vaccine across the galaxy without the Federation's interference. But as they prepared for the final transmission, a message came through the ship's comms. It was Chancellor Lara Dane. Dr. Sinclair. Dane's voice was cool, controlled. We know what you've been doing. Surrender the virus and the vaccine data now, and you will be pardoned. Refuse, and we will hunt you down. You cannot win this fight. Emily clenched her fists. This isn't about winning, it's about saving lives. Dane's voice remained calm. And what do you think happens after you release this vaccine? Chaos, panic, civil unrest. Without the Federation's guidance, you risk destabilizing the entire galaxy. We are the only ones capable of managing this crisis. No, Emily said, her voice firm. You're not. You're the ones creating it. She cut the transmission. The decision was made. The vaccine was sent out to the rogue group, who would distribute it across the galaxy. There was no turning back now. As the ship powered down, Emily leaned back in her chair, exhaustion washing over her. She had done it. She had saved humanity, but at what cost? The Federation would never stop hunting her, but she could live with that. She had done what was right. Drex sat down beside her, a small smile tugging at his lips. Looks like we're fugitives now. Emily chuckled, though there was little humor in it. Yeah, I guess we are. Together, they stared out at the stars, knowing that the battle was far from over. But for the first time in weeks, Emily felt a sense of hope. The galaxy would heal, humanity would survive, and maybe, just maybe, they'd learn from this.